Hello and welcome back to the Code Me Event channel. My name is Gabor Sabo. Often when I try to convince people to use continuous integration, I have a problem because people think, oh, I don't need that. I'm going to run my tests on my computer anyway. I won't forget it. Or especially in the case of Perl, there are the CPAN testers, so they will run the tests whenever the package is uploaded to CPAN. But I got into this module, I noticed this module called data trace, and when I was trying to add continuous integration to it, I noticed that this could be a really good example to show the real value of having a continuous integration system. Nothing special about this module, but it failed on the CI system, and that was the interesting part. So let's take a look at it, what's the story there. Okay, so this is the module on MetaCPAN, and it has a link to its repository. Okay, so we're going to get to the repository, and actually I already forked it, and I'm going to show the results there. So we get to the fork, and what I did is first I of course cloned the repository from GitHub, and then tried to run the test locally. So I installed the dependencies cpan install deps dot, and it installed the dependencies. This time we don't need anything anymore because everything is installed. If you look at the files, it had build PL. It didn't have the build. It's just it was added by my execution from the earlier runs. So you need to run build PL here because this package uses the build this style of packaging. It already warns about something, but that's okay. That's not the test failure yet. Then you need to run Perl build, and then Perl build test. And here, everything worked fine, but I noticed that, there are some tests that are skipped because they are marked as auto tests. So what you need to do in order to run the auto tests is to turn on the release testing flag, set it equal, and then you can run the auto test. So that's what I did, and as you can see here, now this time it failed, so there is some failure here. So that's the point where I said, oh, that's nice. Apparently, so the tests are there, so apparently the authors want these tests to pass, but also apparently they haven't run this test because they are failing, and I assume that they would have fixed them already if they noticed them. So probably that's exactly, so it's exactly the situation that I'm talking about, that you have some tests, and for whatever reason you forget to run them on your local computer, and because you don't have something that will run them automatically, you won't notice for a long time that they are passing. And these are also specific of these hidden tests. Now, maybe these are not that important, but if the tests are not important, then why add them and why write them? So what I did is I said, okay, let's configure GitHub Actions and demonstrate this. So what happened is I added this GitHub Actions. Now, the two things were slightly different from what you can see on the screen. Actually, I saved this file also on the if you follow the link below the video, then you'll find a blog post, and there you can see the original file, almost the original. Two things are slightly different in this version because this is the final version. One, that I didn't have this line, and the other is that this was enabled. So this was, think about it, that this didn't exist and this was enabled, which means that on the servers, we turned on the release testing flag, and then we tried to run the tests. Okay, now I'm just setting them back for now, so I won't forget. So what happened? Let's switch back to the GitHub Actions, and these are the results of this first run. And what was strange is that on both Ubuntu and macOS, so Linux and macOS, the tests passed. So it surprised me because I enabled the tests that were supposed to fail. And on the other hand, on Windows failed. So now this confused me. So what I understood is, looking at the test results, here, run tests, two things I understood. One is that here they are also skipped because these three modules are missing. So apparently I had the modules installed on my computer. Okay, so why did this fail on Windows? Well, on Windows, again, apparently, the one that we install here, so that's Strawberry Pearl, we're using Strawberry Pearl, and apparently it already has these modules, okay? So you can see the test failure, okay? So that's also, it's not an entirely clean environment, the Windows, but it's clean as of Strawberry Pearl, but it's not exactly the same as on Linux or Mac OS. So that's also an interesting thing. And in our configuration, we only run Perl 532, and maybe we could extend it to other versions of Perl, and then maybe we'll see other error reports, but that's not the point right now. So the next step was to add these extra modules that weren't installed on the CI system, on GitHub Actions, on these machines that the tests are running when GitHub Actions runs. And that's when I added this line. So I copied the 3 file names that were missing, that we saw here in the case of the Linux, right? It said the 3 modules, CPAN modules that were needed. So I installed them manually here at this point, and I kept this was still on. Okay, so that was the next version, and then I pushed it out, and here is the result. So in this case, these are the results. All 3 of them are failing. Okay, that's good, because that's what we wanted to show, that on the CI system, these things will fail because there everything is turned on, all the testing are turned on. Now, what has surprised me here again is that the test failures were longer. So on my system, there were not all of these tests failed. So I was wondering what's going on here. And then I got back to my computer and noticed only then, okay, so that's also another thing, that here still, so even after I turned on release testing, one of the tests were skipped because on my computer, this module wasn't installed. So again, these tiny things that, okay, some modules are, the differences between the local environments, whether it's the developers or some contributors or I don't know who's, can hide errors because some modules are not installed, some flags are not turned on, and so on. But if we have a CI system that configured properly and have various cases, then all these errors will appear every time we push out the changes. Okay, so now we can see that the tests are failing, but I don't want to send a pull request to the authors with failing tests, because in a good CI system, it always should be green. It always should be passing. So what I did, the next thing is went back to the file, commented out where are these? Here's these 2 lines, okay? Commented out these 2 lines, so we won't have release testing. I kept the installation because it doesn't really matter, it just takes a little time. And then I pushed out again, and now this time you can see that all 3 are green. And if we click through to the test reports, then you will see that the tests are skipped, also on Windows. The auto tests are skipped. Okay, so the regular tests are passing and the auto tests are skipped. And that's what we want. And now you're wondering, so what's the issue with this? Why do I want to have them green and passing? Then they won't work. The point is that the authors might decide, I mean, if assuming they accept my pull request, they might not have the time to fix these issues right away. Okay, and then we don't want to constant reports that something is failing, something is still failing, while the authors don't have the time to fix those. So it's much better to have everything passing and some of them are still skipped, because this way, if they break something, if an author or a pull request breaks some of the code, actually the real code, then the tests will fail, the CI system will fail and will be reported. If it was always failing because of the other failures, people won't notice that now this is a different failure, or there are more failures. So that's why it's important to have the CI system being always green. And when they will have time to fix these issues with with the author test, then they will be able to just go in, fix the code, of course, and enable these tests by turning on the flags again here in the continuous in the configuration file. So that's it. I hope now it's more convincing that why it's very useful to have a clean and a continuous integration system on some clean environment. It's also useful to have different platforms because they might behave differently. It will be also useful to have different versions of Perl, maybe not so much for the author tests, but for the regular tests, because you want to make sure that your module works on every version of Perl that you expect it to work, of course. Okay, and the whole thing is the same for every other language, with obviously different types of configuration. Okay, so that's it for now. I hope that this video helped you, and then you liked it, and then you clicked on the like button as well, and then followed the channel, and see you in the next video.